Hey folks, I got a video for you today. I'm going to show you how to assemble a Beecastle beehive. They reached out to me, asked me if I would shoot a video on assembly, and I said sure. I get a lot of people that ask me to run an ad or something like that, put a video in my thing. I'm not interested in doing that. But since this is a piece of equipment that I think some of you beekeepers might be interested in, I said sure. So they're not paying me to do this video, but they did send me the kit. So anyway, let's get into it, and I'll show you guys how to assemble. I'll keep a record of the time, as well as at the end I'll do a little review of what I think of the quality of the equipment. Okay folks, I'm going to show you how fast it is to assemble one of these boxes, as well as the procedure. Tools you're going to need an impact driver, dead blow hammer, and the supplied screws. Now on the screws, take note there's two sizes. There's short and long. You'll have, per box, you'll have four short screws, and the rest will be long screws. There's three. And there's our fourth short screw. Put the short screws in last. Okay. The main thing you want to be aware of when you're assembling these is where your handles are. Handles go on the outside and they go at the top of the box. Now your end boxes, they've got the logo, which is easy, and once again you've also got the top groove. So the way these fit in, these side boxes go down, so they get installed like so. Now there's extra wax. This dead blow hammer, which is a 2.5 pound, makes an easy job of this. So what I'm going to do is put 2 screws to start with. Now it's nice, these boxes come, really nice features. They come pre-drilled and pre-countersunk. Word of caution though, you just want to get those screws to where they're flush or just slightly below. You don't want to get real crazy with if you're using an impact driver or a drill. You want to make sure you go kind of easy on it. Now the next piece of wood you're going to want to install is going to be your other short piece, which is going to go down this direction. I'm just going to put it there just so you can see it. And then we'll tap it in. I'll run 2 holder screws. So we've got 3 sides, and our handles are located on the outside, and they're located at the top. So this last one, you want to kind of start it now. Once you get the last one on, you can go ahead and run your screws on this side all the way in. right, everybody's flush or slightly sunk. Finish up our 4 screws on the outside. I really like this box came with screws as opposed to something you have to nail. And these little screws are real important to keep this edge from breaking off. But you also want to make sure, because it's a pretty thin piece of wood, you don't get crazy and set those just right. All right, there you have it, folks. That's how fast the box gets assembled. Multiply, so about 5 minutes by 3, and it's done. Very, very, very fast assembly. 5-6 minutes per box, and you're good to go. The nice thing is, these boxes are also self-squaring. I've already assembled the other 2 boxes. But I'll get the bottom board just so you guys can see that it's square. Now flush here, 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 and there. Self-squaring box. You can't beat it. Alright guys, that's on to frames. Alright, there she is, folks. 20-minute assembly, actually less than 20 minutes to assemble colony. And joints are nice. I really like the highlights. I like that the bottom board is solid and not plywood, and that they went to the trouble of wax dipping the inner cover, which I just think is great. No paint required. So yeah, I am assembly's easy, joints are nice, but make sure you got a dead blow hammer to kind of move that excess wax out of your way. Anyway, we'll do the frames next. Okay folks, I'm going to show you how to do frames today as part of this Beecastle project. I'm going to nail the first ones by hand, and I'll do 10 that way, and then I'll do another 10 with the nail gun. You can see the speed difference. Going to be using a Fingernail jig. Going to be using Titebond 3 glue. I do not recommend you assemble these frames without the glue, as you'll wind up a mess down the road. So you want your frames as strong as possible. So, and Titebond 3 is the strongest glue I've been able to find. Alright, I'm going to start the timer and we'll get to it. The way this frame assembly jig works is you can put your finger kind of down in there, drop these in, there's springs that hold everything in place. And I'm just using one of the frames itself to keep it pried open. Alright, so there's one side. Move my glue to the center. these springs are really strong, and they need to be because they keep everything nice and square. Now you can assemble frames without a jig, but honestly, I don't really recommend it. It's a lot of work checking everything square. So we're on a minute 23. You want to put a liberal amount of glue on this. I use a small brush. Make sure you get the sides because they grip a lot. Tell from the wood that these frames are made from pine, but looks like they're made from good density. They're not spruce or any super fast grown, so that's a good thing. That tight grain makes the frame stable as well as much stronger. You get big wide grain and you'll wind up with a lot of movement on your frames, bowing and that sort of thing. And they also tend to not split as bad as if they got this nice tight grain. I've been doing this stuff for 24 years, and how I started was hand nailing. I gave up hand nailing, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, but it's good to have the skill set, right? So you drop those in, and I just go ahead and put, because you don't want your glue drying out, you want to get all your bars on top first. This guy right here, a little whack and she's in. I'm pleased instead of breaking out my mallet, using a frame, tap it in. It's important, you don't want to dilly-dally too much, as your glue will soak into the wood, but only one side. So if you get down to the end and you don't have any glue that you see that's wet, you may have to reapply. And you may want to do these one at a time. But for efficiency's sake, and I put together about 400 frames a year, so 300 to 400, so time is always valuable. All right, so we're going to break out the nails. Which they supplied with us. Little trick if you're going to hand nail, do yourself a favor and don't drop them. But go ahead and get all your nails oriented the same direction. It makes feeding them much faster, so you're not having to constantly try and figure out which end's what. Now these nails are a little smaller. I normally do that with like an 8-penny nail, but we'll make this work. So if I can hold them. So we're going to tap with this small piece of wood, you want to make sure you get these things in and started. Now, I read the instructions, it says you can glue. And it says to nail, but it doesn't tell you how many nails to put in. Now, I can tell you, definitely want to have 2 nails in this thing, and you want to drive in that last blow. You want to make sure you drive these things home. Now, you can use any hammer you want, but these small nails, I prefer to use a smaller hammer. Trying to sling a big old 20 ounce or 16 ounce hammer seems kind of pointless to me. Also, I seem to do a better job driving them in where I need them to go with a smaller hammer. So we're at the 8-minute mark, and we're not done with frames yet. Our box is on thick as 6 minutes to assemble. Lift this over, like so. Slide it down. Just enough to where you can get some expose your bottom bars. Now, this kit comes with 30 frames, and let me just say, buying this jig will pay for itself on assembling these 30 frames. Any jig. It doesn't have to be the man leg jig. It's just assembling without a frame jig really slows things down. So we're at the 13-minute mark, so we've spent more than twice the amount of time putting these frames together. Alright, now we get our bottom pieces in. Said I really like that these bottom bars are thick. They're a 1/2 inch thick or 3/8, but they're the same thickness as the ones I use for man leg. I'll move our jig up a little bit. I'll just leave it there. So, on these bottoms, you don't really need 2 nails. You just need 1 because you're not going to be prying and trying to lift the entire thing. The only thing you're going to be looking for is this joint right here, is to make sure that it's to the frame. And just put 1 nail per, will be fine. Okay, frames are done, and we'll drop them out of the jig, and we'll call them done. So to remove the jig, you got a couple of options. What I like to do is just take the spring off, like so. Squeeze them down. I normally have my wife here to help me with this, which does make it a little bit easier. So we're trying to knock these sliders and voila, we have them out free. So, all right, we'll call that done at 21 minutes. All right, we'll show you the other. So we put our jig back together. We drop two sides in, like so. Put our spring unit back on. And this one I'm going to show you the mediums. Oh, I guess I'll start our timer. Alright, starting timer now. Squeezing. Flip that around. Make life a little easier on myself. All right. Get the glue. We're going to be using 18 gauge narrow crown staples for this little venture. Now, since I'm not going to be hammering these per se, I am going to use my hammer to tap these into place, get them kind of fitted. But I'm going to make sure that they are set home, because a nail gun is not going to do the same as hand nailing on that. Now notice I pull my thumb away before I pull that trigger. So what it looks to me like is these bottom bars are just a hair short. Let's check them. That one looks like about 16. No, they're the right length. Take my spring off prematurely because so the frames are just slightly undersized for my jig, it appears, because I'm tied up against here and I'm coming in a little short. So what I'm going to have to do is just drop it out of my jig to finish. With the longer frames, it's not a problem. It appears they are perpendicular, but they're just a hair, just a smidge undersized, like an eighth of an inch. That's why it's so hard to get them out of my jig, was because they're slightly undersized frames. Very important for you to move your thumb away. Staples can curl, and you don't want to staple your finger. Believe me, you do it one time, you'll remember. All right. So that took 15 minutes. Which is better than 21. To do these frames. Okay, folks. The frames are not undersized. This is a Manlake frame. I just dipped, so it's a little more yellow. And this is one of the frames I just assembled. So the difference, their length is identical. It's the sidebars. The sidebars are just a hair thicker, makes them stronger, but it may be a little problematic like I was having with my jig. Now it was fine with the deep frames, but with the medium frames I really couldn't assemble them. So that's just one difference. It would be an easy modification on my jig, which would be just to run this through the planer and make up the difference. A quick pass through the planer, make this a little thinner, would convert my jig to run these frames. I'm not going to do that because I've got 1,000 frames to assemble and they're all Manlake. So, but that's not really a problem. Matter of fact, I kind of like the sides are thicker, so they're stronger and they're less likely to split. I did not have a single one of these split on me running staples or nails, that's a pretty good testament. So putting your foundation in, for those that don't know, it is very simple. You just slide it in. You start, you want to put it in the top first and then snap it in the bottom, because the bottom's got a little more play, and then when you hear it snap, you got it set. So anyway, so the total time for assembly with nails worked out to be an hour and a half for the whole system ready to go, and it worked out to be about an hour for just a hair over an hour if you were using a nail gun for the frames. Said the frames take more time than assembling the boxes. So anyway, if you got any questions, just leave a comment below and I'll try to answer them to you, and you can find, but all in all, I'm very happy with the quality. I didn't have any assembly issues, and they gave me, I had one screw left over, so they didn't short me any hardware, and they didn't leave me with a ton either. We're going to compare the foundation from this Beecastle to Manlake. Manlake has been my favorite. I use the Right Cell foundation. It's treated me really well. We're going to check and see what kind of differences we have between the two. So the Right Cell is one of the thickest foundations you can buy. It's measuring 218 grams for a sheet, and the Beecastle foundation is weighing in at 167. So it's lighter. And we'll measure our width is 375 millimeters compared to 507. Let's see if we can't get a depth reading. Depth on the Right Cell is basically about 2 millimeters, where the depth on the Beecastle is 145. So there's where a lot of the weight difference is. Now, as far as quality goes, this looks to be fine. The foundation is nice. It's not as deep as the Right Cell, but like I said, Right Cell's got the deepest one on the market. Now, what you will notice is there is a little bit of difference. You can tell by the color. This appears to be a little thicker application of beeswax. That's a good thing. It feels like the Right Cell almost doesn't feel like it's got any coating on it at all. It does, but their spraying is so precise. Like, they don't even spray any excess on the outside rim. Their sprayer comes right here, so they don't waste any wax whatsoever. So once I get over here, I'm dead. It's dead clean. There's not a bit of beeswax on the ends. So the Beecastle, they spray all the way to the edge, but we're just going to do the fingernail test because I wanted to scrape the edges, but then I realized, oh, Man Lake doesn't spray their edges. I was going to try to do a comparison, but there's the beeswax coming off the edge there, and I'm just having to kind of eyeball that compared to that. It appears to me that this wax foundation, the Beecastle foundation, has got a better coating of wax. Now, which will give you better acceptance. That's a very good thing. There is one slight problem that I noticed is you can see right here, there is gaps on their spraying on the very last 2 rows of foundation. So there's no wax. Let's see if I can get it in the light. There's no wax there. So that's a little bit of a problem, but if you install this foundation with this on the bottom, it probably will not be an issue. The bees will probably draw it out anyway, or you can redip it. It's a minor thing. This one is a little bit better sprayed. It's got some splatter, so it did get some coating. It's still not as thick as the other. So unfortunately, I'll have to put this stuff in a hive and compare it with the Man Lake as far as acceptance rates. But right now, it definitely appears that this has got a better coating of beeswax than the Man Lake does. The Man Lake is thicker and deeper cells. This is probably, if I had some Pergo foundation, I do, but it's already drawn out. If I had some bare Pergo, I would compare it. But all in all, the foundation, I'm happy with it. I'm really, really happy about the thick coating of wax. Okay, final thoughts on the Beecastle beehive. First of all, assembly time, including snapping in the foundation and everything, was 2 hours for the full nail in. If you want to nail your frames together, it's going to take you about 2 hours. And if you're going to use the speed of a narrow crown stapler, that's going to shave a half an hour. So you can get this thing up and running in an hour and a half. It's ready to go in the yard, which is great. The strengths on this system, I think, it's got nice dovetails, but it's got screws instead of nails. That's really nice. It saves a lot of time, it saves a lot of sore thumbs, and the number of fasteners that you have is half that of a box joint because you're only putting screws on one side, whereas anyone that's assembled a box joint knows that you have to do both sides. So you've got half the number of fasteners to have to install. The other strength is this inner cover that is got a heavy layer of wax. I think that's just fantastic. That will really help with, and it's dipped on both sides, so it'll be a nice stable inside the hive. If you just waxed one side, you'd probably have issues with warping, but because they dipped the whole thing, that's fantastic. The lid is nice and solid and heavy, so there's some good weight. This lid fits tight enough that I put a brick on it, but you don't have to put much. I mean, I typically just always put bricks on top of my hives. The other thing is that I like about this is the bottom board is solid wood and not any plywood for the bottom board. So that also makes it easier if this fails due to weathering the porch, which is they're prone to do. You can remove just that porch if it's a problem, but I don't foresee. A few friends of mine have these wax hives from another brand, and they're pretty much the same price, but they were complaining that they had a lot of problems with the wax. I didn't really have any issues on assembly of this thing, but once again, using that dead blow hammer really makes things go a lot easier. And the only recommendation I would say is, if you're going to buy one of these, if your beam, whatever you're setting your hives on top of, isn't a rough surface, then you probably want to add like sandpaper or something to that surface, because this wax can be slick. So if you put this on top of say you build your beam out of 8x8s that are planed on the edge, then this, because of that wax, may slide around a little too much for you. So I would recommend either using rough sawn wood, if you're going to use that, cinder blocks, or if you have no alternative, then just you can staple some sandpaper, or you can even scrape some of the wax off the bottom of this. But that's a minor thing. These waxed hives are kind of new to the market, but for the amount of time I spent assembly, I really didn't, 20 minutes to assemble the hive, and basically an hour to assemble the frames, and another half hour to snap the foundation in. If you were hand painting this and not spraying it, it would take you, I could say that it will take you more time to paint one than it was for me to assemble this one. So anyway, thank you Beecastle for sending this to me to assemble. I hope everyone, hopefully everybody understands all the instructions. Once again, make sure when you're doing assembly, you assemble short end to a long one, and then assemble another short end, and then you can drop your last piece in. That's really all there is to it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe.